Shifting emotions, mood and core beliefs. Mood is terrain. Emotion is weather. Core belief is the blueprint buried beneath them. Hormones regulate the climate system that governs them all. For many, these terms blur together, but in the architecture of self-development, they serve distinct roles. Mood is the background state, how your nervous system feels over time. It's shaped by sleep, hormonal rhythms, nutrition, and relational safety. Emotion is the flair, fast, reactive, tied to specific events. It signals urgency, fear, joy, anger, shame. Core beliefs are deeper. They are silent assumptions that shape how you interpret both mood and emotion. To shift mood, you regulate the system. Breathwork lowers cortisol. Movement increases dopamine. Sunlight stabilizes circadian rhythm. Connection releases oxytocin. Mood responds to rhythm, not logic. You don't argue with it, you tune it. To shift emotion, you complete the cycle. Let anger move through the body. Punch a pillow, write a letter you don't send. Let sadness be named, cry, speak, reflect. Let joy be amplified, share it, savor it, anchor it. Emotion responds to permission, not suppression. You don't control it, you metabolize it. To shift core belief, you challenge architecture. Track the belief. I am unworthy. Find the evidence. Who taught me that? Interrupt the loop. What happens when I act as if I am worthy? Reinforce the new frame. I am learning to trust myself. Belief responds to repetition, not insight. You don't replace it once, you revise daily. This triad mood, emotion, belief is recursive. Mood biases emotion. Emotion reinforces belief. Belief shapes mood. If you shift one, you influence others. If you shift all three, you rewire the system. Consider this scenario to visualize the interdependence of the internal process. She wakes up anxious. Her mood is tense, tight chest, racing thoughts, and low appetite. This isn't just nerves, it's the residue of a long-held core belief. My voice isn't safe. That belief was shaped by years of invalidation, gaslighting, and professional retaliation. Her emotions are raw fear, shame, and a flicker of excitement. She's caught between the urge to cancel and the desire to show up. Instead of suppressing fear, she names it. She journals. I'm afraid of being misunderstood. I'm afraid of being dismissed. That act of numbing shifts the emotion from chaotic to coherent. She then plays a curated playlist, songs that remind her of past resilience, connection, and clarity. The music begins to regulate her mood. Her breathing slows, her posture opens, her nervous system softens. She moves, stretching, packing, grounding herself in the present. Then she revisits a reframed core belief she's been practicing. My voice is a tool for healing, not just for others, but for me. She speaks it aloud. She writes it on a sticky note and places it beside her laptop. She doesn't feel fully confident, but she feels aligned. The mood is no longer hostile. The emotion is no longer overwhelming. The belief is no longer silenced. Mood is the nervous system's readiness signal. Emotion is data with direction. Belief is architecture in motion. These elements can be engaged deliberately, not just in moments of crisis or reflection, but in the middle of life, while training, creating, connecting, recovering. A runner might prime mood with rhythm, channel emotion into stride, and anchor belief with a phrase like, I endure. A painter might tune mood with silence, let emotion guide the brush, and reinforce belief in their vision. After a hard day, one might shift mood with movement, metabolize emotion through music, and soften belief with ritual. Emotional resonance deepens when the triad is activated with intention, fueled with reason. The brain becomes more plastic, more receptive to change. Authentic experience transgresses tastefully to transformation. Cognitive strain, emotional challenge, and brain stimulation. Effortful engagement, especially under emotional strain, can be a powerful catalyst for growth. When a person takes on a challenging activity while emotionally activated, the brain enters a state of heightened plasticity, constructive strain. In this state, the brain is forced to reorganize itself to meet the demands of the moment. New neural connections form, old patterns are interrupted, and adaptive capacity expands. But this process must be carefully calibrated. Too little challenge leads to stagnation. Too much can trigger shutdown, reactivity, or emotional withdrawal, especially in individuals with trauma histories or emotional dysregulation. The key is finding the right level of strain, enough to stretch, but not to snap. This requires real-time feedback, developmental sensitivity, and emotional packing. When challenge is matched to readiness, it paves the neural path for metamorphosis. Effortful engagement activates systems responsible for executive function, emotional regulation, and self-awareness. Cognitive strain enhances problem-solving and planning, while emotional challenge builds resilience and flexibility. Social support plays a vital role in this process, offering relational buffering, empathy, and co-regulation. Through shared experience, the brain becomes more receptive to challenge and more capable of integration. Trauma often creates avoidance patterns, strategies designed to shield the nervous system from overwhelm. While protective in the short term, these patterns can limit growth, connection, and identity coherence over time. When effortful activities are introduced in a way that is safe, structured, and emotionally attuned, they can catalyze post-traumatic growth. This involves reactivating dormant neural pathways, integrating fragmented memory, and reestablishing agency. For example, a trauma survivor engaging in bilateral movement while narrating their story may experience emotional processing without re-traumatization, building coherence instead of collapse. In the context of the social stimulation method, it's essential not to activate neural regions, positively or negatively, without considering dysfunctions tied to trauma or diagnosis. Stimulating the reward system through praise or achievement-based tasks may backfire in individuals with dopaminergic dysregulation, triggering shame or emotional shutdown rather than motivation. Likewise, activating the social cognition network through roles like facilitator or peer mentor can provoke masking, hypervigilance, or relational fatigue in those with histories of rejection or relational trauma. This is where mindfulness of activity selection becomes critical. Every chosen stimulus, whether movement, dialogue, role play, or reflection, interacts with mood and emotion in ways that can reinforce or revise core beliefs. If an activity evokes shame, fear, or emotional collapse, it may entrench the very beliefs one seeks to change. But when activities are selected with attunement to emotional readiness and neural sensitivity, they can gently challenge avoidance, restore coherence, and open pathways for belief transformation. Mindfulness isn't just a practice, it's a design principle for healing. Activities that require sustained attention, emotional regulation, or social negotiation are especially powerful in trauma recovery. When paired with relational safety and symbolic meaning, they help the brain reorganize itself in response to challenge. Structured group tasks, for instance, can rebuild trust and executive function by promoting relational attunement and activating social cognition. This isn't just about doing hard things, it's about doing the right hard things at the right time with the right support. Stress inoculation, the gradual exposure to manageable levels of challenge, is foundational to this approach. It increases resilience, emotional flexibility, and adaptive capacity. Novelty plays a critical role. It disrupts habitual patterns, activates attention, and opens the door to repatterning. When emotional challenge is introduced through new experiences, the brain becomes more plastic, allowing for breakthroughs in regulation, identity, and behavior. Novel activities, such as movement, art, or storytelling, are especially potent when paired with emotional activation and relational safety. They stimulate engagement, motivation, and memory retention, making them ideal vehicles for transformation. The psychosocial brain stimulation matrix incorporates these principles by designing activities that stretch without overwhelming, calibrating challenge to match emotional readiness, neural state, and ecological context. Social stimulation serves as the buffering mechanism. It provides empathy, packing, and relational support, introducing new roles, like facilitator or storyteller, within familiar group settings can stimulate growth without triggering defense. These experiences expand cognitive capacity and deepen relational attunement. In this framework, stress is not avoided. It is strategically introduced and transformed into a tool for healing, identity refinement, and lifelong development. Every challenge becomes an invitation to evolve, guided by novelty, emotional congruence, and relational safety. Developmentally, appropriate activity selection. Not all challenges are equal, and not all hard things are helpful. What constitutes a meaningful challenge varies widely depending on age, neurotype, trauma history, and emotional readiness. For a child, a sensory sorting task may be sufficiently demanding. For an adult, it might be a symbolic confrontation with grief. The key is not the difficulty itself, but the fit. How well the activity matches the person's developmental stage, emotional capacity, and lived experience. Effective growth requires challenge that stretches without overwhelming. When activities are too easy, they lead to stagnation. When they're too intense, they can trigger shutdown, reactivity, or emotional withdrawal. Developmentally appropriate challenge promotes mastery, confidence, and neural integration. It helps individuals build resilience and coherence by engaging with discomfort in a way that feels purposeful and safe. This is where precision matters. A neurodivergent teen may find a group debate overstimulating, while a socially withdrawn adult might experience a storytelling circle as transformative. Activities should be selected for their sustainability, ensuring that emotional tension leads to growth, not collapse. Social stimulation plays a critical role in anchoring these challenges. Through relational modeling, empathy, and emotional packing, even high-intensity tasks can be delivered within a context of safety and support. This relational buffering allows users to engage with discomfort without tipping into overwhelm. In this framework, challenge is a processional tool for development, designed to meet the user where they are and guide them toward where they're ready to go. Emotional challenge is not a barrier, it's a catalyst. Discomfort isn't a symptom to be avoided. It's a signal that the brain is entering a state of constructive strain, a fertile zone for neural reorganization, identity refinement, and relational expansion. When a person engages with emotional tension in a structured, supported, and symbolically meaningful way, transformation becomes possible. This is the fire through which coherence is forged. Navigating a difficult conversation in a safe group setting, for example, doesn't just build communication skills. It strengthens the internal scaffolding for empathy, emotional containment, and perspective-taking. Challenge, when properly supported, activates the systems responsible for resilience, emotional literacy, and adaptive behavior. The architecture of adaptive chain. Human development is a product of willpower, but also neuroecological process shaped by emotion, environment, and experience. Triggers, habits, and unconscious patterns are of the brain's adaptive history. Through deliberate engagement, these patterns can be surfaced, restructured, and transformed. The journey from habit to skill to instinct reveals how repetition, emotional relevance, and relational safety convert effort into embodiment. Cognitive growth depends not only on what we do, but when, where, and with whom we do it. Constructive strain, when properly calibrated, activates the brain's capacity for reorganization. Emotional challenge, far from being a threat, becomes a signal that the system is ready to grow. But this growth is only sustainable when activities are developmentally appropriate, emotionally paced, and ecologically aligned. The social stimulation operationalizes these principles, offering a framework for selecting and sequencing activities that meet individuals where they are, guiding them toward who they are becoming. In this model, every trigger is a doorway, every habit a blueprint, every challenge a sculptor of the self. Transformation is not imposed, it is invited through precision, presence, and purpose.